South Africa's commitment to gender equality will be brought to the fore once again when President Cyril Ramaphosa leads a forum today. The sitting is held in Paris and aims to accelerate global gender equality action, including creating an equal economy. For more on this, we're joined by Deputy Director General and Generation Equality Forum Senior Specialist in the Presidency, Namhla Mniki. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time tonight. Firstly,
thank you so much, Cathy.
How much of South Africa's participation in this forum has to do with what we are doing locally from a government perspective in terms of achieving generation equality?
It's a brilliant start-off question because, in fact, one of the things His Excellency said when we started with the journey of Generation Equality Forum was that anything we say out there, both in the region and globally, has to be something that we are doing here. So a momentous thing has just happened I think we just finished about 30 minutes ago in the opening ceremony, where global leaders across governments, civil society, private sector actually came and said they are making tangible, clear commitments to act, to promote and accelerate gender equality and gender justice. And every single one of the things we were talking about and we were promoting at that global space are actually things that we are doing here at home.
It's easy to make commitments and concessions on a global stage and effectively say that there are things that government would want to do. But the reality is that when we look at the status of our country, even when we look at the economy, there's nothing about its current state that suggests that there is a level of equality, in particular where women are concerned.
Absolutely. I think I could not agree with you more in as far as saying that our economy right now is on its knees, as it were. And I think that we are embarking on a program as a whole society, not just government, but private sector, civil society, in figuring out how do we wake ourselves up? How do we reactivate the economy? Now, one of the things we've been saying as we've been leading the Generation Equality Forum process is that you can't really do this project of economic reconstruction and recovery while excluding 50% of your population who are in fact value contributors into the economy. So when we say something like 40% preferential procurement is going to be earmarked for women-owned businesses, what we are saying by that is that we are implementing a clear, tangible, measurable program where women are going to, over time, increasingly become owners of wealth, because as soon as you target women-owned businesses for procurement, what you're saying is if you had a small business yesterday and you begin to do business with government, what we're trying to work towards is women growing their businesses in those particular sectors and industries and over time becoming more sustainable. But we're not just saying that, Cathy. We're not just saying that it's public procurement we're looking at. We are also saying the private sector has to come to the table. One of the hallmarks of the Generation Equality Forum is this idea of intersectionality. In other words, this idea that all of society must come together, the private sector, civil society, development actors, and actually work together towards some of the targets that we are talking about. So as long as we just have the public sector making these commitments and implementing, we are essentially doing it half-baked, as it were. So we are now currently working on what we are calling a value chain facilitation program, where we are engaging directly with leaders of the private sector in this country and saying, these are the priority sectors for economic recovery. How do we make sure that you are investing in women-owned businesses through capacity building and through giving them opportunities? But let me not just focus on the preferential procurement thing, because one of the other things that really hinders women from participating is actually access to financing. And we've been saying that financing actually is not a soft matter. In other words, it's a core element of productive resources. And so one of the things we're embarking on in this country is that we have a whole new policy framework we are working on so that our financial inclusion policy includes women in the margins, includes women in the informal sector who need very different financial products than big business, as it were. So there's a number of programs that are already taking place in this country that are currently being implemented, where we've been bold enough to say we are going to experiment where we need to. We're going to invest money where we need to, because it's critical. We're not doing women a favor. It's critical that for our economic recovery to happen, women must be front and center, as well as young people in this country.
Of course, in the interim, it doesn't change the situation for many women who we know under COVID-19 have been the hardest hit, not just in the formal sector, but especially in the informal sector. There's been very little support for those women and no clear measure that government is going to be using to reach out and support those women, to meet them at where they are right now.
You raise a really important point. In fact, the global figure at the moment is that women through COVID since 2020 have lost over 800 billion in income alone. We know that in this country, of those who lost their jobs, 2/3 were women. And I think that there is a real recognition that COVID has taken us back some years, as it were, even in the gains that we already had. But I do want to say that it would be incorrect to say that there aren't measures at the moment. So when we are accelerating the work we're doing around supporting SMMEs, as an example, and when we are looking at our social security system, such as the 350 emergency grant that you know about, all of those measures were to support South Africans in vulnerable situations, including women. I think the challenge that we're sitting at the moment is, if we're talking the economy specifically, how do we then ensure that while we've got the emergency measures that we put in place, we are now looking at more sustainable recovery, and we're doing that quickly enough so that we don't have more women falling into poverty, as it were. I think another issue that we worried really about was the GBV issue that you may have seen in the numbers last year, that because of the impact of COVID and the tension that it created, particularly in relation to lockdown, the incident of GBV was increasing in households. And so what we had to do was to look at the National Strategic Plan and accelerate the implementation of that, so that we are working on the justice system and increasing the number of courts, which actually happened. We have two new bills that were launched and are being implemented that actually address GBV. We have new Tutuzela centers that have been rolled out in the country. So what I'm trying to say is that we are facing significant challenges, but there are a number of measures that first and foremost recognize the importance of women, but also take seriously the need for implementation that's measurable and tangible.
Namhla Mniki is the DDG and senior specialist in the Presidency on Generation Equality Forum. Let's leave